podcast doing a review of Over the Garden Wall. For those who don't know, Over the Garden Wall was a miniseries, an animated miniseries that aired on Cartoon Network in 2015. It is about two boys going through the woods, and they're trying to get back home after they get lost. One is an older boy who is very poetic and insecure, and it feels more like he's kind of burdened with everything. And the other one is his younger brother who's more carefree, very eccentric, kind of reminiscent of really how a little kid would act. And even the voice actor sounds like it's actually a kid. Whereas the older boy is played by Elijah Wood, who honestly sounds like a boy of his age, around 14 or 15 or so. The story is about the two trying to get back home through the woods, and they encounter lots of interesting and strange characters. There is a bird, a talking bird, who helps them try to find their way back, who also has their own story. They encounter all kinds of townspeople, and the stories get very eccentric and very dark. The whole thing has kind of a Halloween atmosphere about it. There's talking frogs, there's pumpkin-headed people. There is an eccentric millionaire who lives in a house who may or may not be haunted. It's the kind of thing that is reminiscent of the kind of thing like maybe a kid would write, like the kind of short stories that you would write when you were in the 5th grade about weird things happening to ordinary kids. It kind of reminded me when I was younger, when I read Alvin Schwartz's books of short stories, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Except these are less horror and more kind of dark fantasy. Though there is elements of really dark horror underneath them. And the series itself is episodic, even though it does have an overarching story. And when you get to the last episode, you kind of see where it all began and why they were going through the woods in the first place. But I really just like more the look to it. And not only that, the writing. The writing and directing are fantastic. It reminded me more of older animated series. It reminds me more of something that would have aired on Cartoon Network in the 90s. Its animation is more modern, but at the same time, it's not that really crappy trying to look 2D, but actually, computer generated look. It is done with computers, and it does have that kind of look, but not to the extent of just lazy. It actually has a gorgeous and very detailed and atmospheric animation style, and its writing and direction are spot on. It's clearly not meant to be a long series, and each episode knows how to tell the story to where it wraps up perfectly for the next odd encounter these boys have. And the series finale, is very satisfactory and lends itself more again to the Halloween theme. There's also a timelessness about it. This series could have been written in the 70s or the 80s, the 90s. It could have been, written maybe even as, late 60s. There's certain things in it that are kind of modern as far as its dialogue, but overall, the series itself has a timeless quality about it, which I think is intentional. I think it's meant to mimic folk stories or fairy tales, that kind of thing. The kind of, timeless stories that have always been around, and which differ from the telling more and more, and kind of adapt to how storytellers, adapt stories like that. What else can I say about it? I feel it's sad in how obscure it is. I think it definitely needs more attention. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing it, develop into a full-length series. To, take the characters and take them through this kind of world where kind of this odd antiquity, old-timey meets dark, fantastic atmosphere kind of environment, and kind of just let them run wild. Let them kind of just go from encounter to encounter like they do in this series. I don't know what else the writer and director of it has done, but I'd like to see more projects by him. I think he would do great writing and directing films for sure. Um, and honestly, I think this miniseries definitely deserves not only a watch, but I think it's a great addition to anyone who likes one who likes animation, and two who likes just good stories. And I think it's a great addition to any DVD collection. Um, and honestly, I was really surprised at how good it was because, excuse me, because modern Cartoon Network has not been what I would call the pinnacle quality. I mean, there are certain exceptions like Adventure Time and Steven Universe, but overall, its programming is just crap, and it has been since I'd say around the late 2000s. But this, to me, along with Steven Universe, this definitely shows that there's potential. This shows that there can be creativity and ideas again. But that's just my opinion. If you like modern Cartoon Network, that's fine. It's just not for me. But then again, obviously I like, older animation. So, take it with what you will. I hope you can get some kind of idea whether or not you'd like it. I highly recommend it. Um, and honestly, I wish I could do it more justice, but I mean, all I could really do from here is probably just talk about episode by episode, some of the storylines and everything. But I think just an overall view kind of is better going into it because I didn't know anything about going into it, and I felt it was actually kind of more rewarding not knowing much about going into it. So hopefully you guys can, judge from my thoughts on it whether or not it's up for you. But for what it's worth, I think it's great. But that's just my 2 cents. So, hope you check it out. Over the Garden Wall, fantastic series. The DVD has some cool things like a composer's cut, commentaries, deleted animatics. Um, some behind the scenes featurette, things like that. And plus, it has great, talent, voice acting as well from people like John Cleese and Elijah Wood, Christopher Lloyd, Chris Isaac. I mean, it has a really good cast. Actually, some of these I didn't even know these were these people. So anyway, hope you guys like it. Sorry to ramble on, but that's my thoughts. Hope you like it. Hope you definitely check it out. And I'll see you later. Bye.